Cool. All right, I'm going to take that as a yes. So, fuck yes. Welcome to After the Hype. And your host is always Brian Dressel. With me, as always, is Jonathan Artisty.
Hey!
And the other two still aren't here this week. But we do have Sam Garrison sitting in again for Emily, which is appreciated.
Hello.
Welcome back. Was it a good coffee break between the two episodes?
I'm still drinking the coffee, Brian. Don't rush me.
So no, it was a rushed coffee break is what you're saying.
Well, 7 days? Not that rushed.
7 days.
Why are you still wearing the same shirt, John?
Some things never change.
John owns 3 shirts. It might be clean. Who knows?
Yeah. You don't know, and I don't care. And the podcast is over.
Yeah.
Oops.
Every time I try to talk, Sam snorts again, and then I laugh again.
I'm just gonna go. Goodbye.
It can't get better than that, right? So that voice you're hearing is Mike Nayyar.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
I was asking John, and neither one of us can remember. What was the other episode you were on for this?
The La La Land.
That's
episode.
right. Yeah, I couldn't remember. That's what John guessed.
I was thinking it was, yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I also don't look at our back catalog.
Clearly, it was a very memorable episode. So
I remembered you being on the show. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, well, he should definitely come on again. What was
That
the one he was
one
on
guy.
again? And John was like, I
Well-
think La La Land.
Because I was trying to recall what breakdown we made you do, and then you had some singing, and I was like, oh, wait.
Oh, I forgot we made him sing it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I blocked that memory out, so it makes sense.
it's all coming
Was
back.
it
Yeah.
traumatizing for you?
Well,
Did you not enjoy it?
we're starting right away in character.
Tell me something. Did you want to bludgeon your co-host? You should have listened to that
Maybe.
instinct.
Maybe
Oh.
I did. I don't know.
Oh boy.
You should make up your mind now.
I don't. I hear
People
there's
don't
screams
like
at night.
indecisions. That's why we got Donald Trump.
Oof. Now I got political. So that kind
Anthony
of voice
Hopkins.
that you just heard was not Anthony Hopkins. We have Chris Ortiz back. Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Chris is determined to do the entire episode in character, which will either be entertaining or annoying as fuck, but
Well-
we will find out throughout the episode.
We'll know if I make it through this alive.
Like the Night King said to Gandalf, I will break you.
If someone gets murdered, do we have to release the episode, or do we destroy?
No.
the-
I'm quite good at disposing of bodies. I can teach you and maybe write you up a pamphlet or something along those lines.
A cookbook, perhaps?
Yes.
Oh.
That would be the polite thing to do.
I have made
The polite thing is to make a cookbook?
But politeness is probably overrated, right?
Right, well, you got to eat the rude, right?
Oh my god.
I find cookbooks to be bland. I like to write things down on index cards.
Let's do a where have you been doing? Chris, why do you go first?
Well, I've been eating. I've been doing. I recently played a game called Horizon Zero Dawn. It's delightful. The lead character reminds me of a certain Clarice Starling.
I'm cutting you off. You're done. Thank you. Horizon Zero Dawn sounds great.
This is going to be fun today.
Oh, man.
Oh boy.
I've got a picture of, like, Jodie Foster in, like, tribal gear scaling robotic dinosaurs.
I, too, picture Jodie Foster that way.
I didn't need to picture Jodie Foster that way, but now I can't get it out of my
Yeah,
head.
now it's
so-
just what I'm thinking of. Good Lord.
Strap yourselves in.
I'll go next. I started replaying a game. I haven't played it in a number of years. Some of you may have heard of it. It's called Super Mario World.
Oh, yes, I played that several times while in prison.
Good Lord. That's all I'm really going to say on it. I've really been enjoying replaying it. It's a fun game. Chris is going to kill himself in this episode. John, what about you? Where have you been doing?
So, at around the same time you did, I started watching The End of the Fucking World.
Ooh.
I'm only halfway through it just because I watched...
How are you still only halfway through it? The thing takes like 2 hours to watch.
I know. That's the bad thing about watching these things at like 12, 1, 2 in the morning, that I just start to fall asleep.
But
But
finish half the show in one episode of Supernatural.
More importantly, what have you been doing at those late hours? Have you been a naughty boy, Jonathan?
very...
Oh.
Looks like someone's going to be on season 2 of Mindhunters.
It was okay. Anyways, it's really good. I just got to the part where they introduced the detectives, and I was trying to actually stop the show, trying to figure out where the one detective was from, the kind of the lighter-haired gal, and Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was bugging me. I was obsessive, and yeah, but still, the show's really good. I
great.
love it.
Excellent.
If you love it so much, why don't you finish it? Mike, what about you?
But then it has to be over.
Oh, you can't leave things hanging and incomplete. You gotta find closure.
Well, if you don't end it, it's not over.
The end of the fucking world is
More
not the
wisdom
show for
from
closure.
John.
Just so you know, not the show for closure.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Where have you been doing? So I found myself at Vaughn's the other night, and I promise this story has a point.
What's the matter? Whole Foods isn't good enough for you?
It's a little too upscale.
It's just right for me.
So I found myself at a Vaughn's the other day for whatever reason, and I found an ice cream that I haven't been able to find in 14 years. Ben & Jerry's One World Peace, I think it's called. No.
Nope.
Oh, I know it.
All too well. Anyway.
Was it a 14-year-old pint of ice cream? Because that's nasty.
You know, check again in 2 months. If I come back, if I ever come back for a guest spot, then you'll know. It brought joy to my life to find it after so long. So
Nice.
that's
Perfect.
That's
I think
awesome.
that's the first plug we've ever gotten for ice cream, but I'll take it.
It means a lot to me. That's all I wanted to say.
Wait, what is
Perfect.
One World Peace? So because I love ice cream, so please explain this.
So see, I'm glad I have an audience.
Really
I have an audience.
I do love ice cream a lot.
So it's coffee ice cream as a base.
Ooh.
It has
man.
like marshmallow fluff, like
Okay,
kind of
yes.
throughout it, a caramel swirl, and like fudge chocolate discs.
Man.
It's really
Well, because the
choice.
world is flat, right?
No ice cream for you.
I was not
Jonathan,
expecting
It
that
got the
direction.
reaction that I wanted.
Jonathan, I have a very funny feeling you and your ignorance are not going to get along with me throughout this podcast.
Probably not. From the judge to the guest.
Your world is flat.
Chris is going to go full method and eat you.
Can't vote against me if you're in my tummy.
Exactly. Oh, wait, you're the judge. I should be sucking up to you.
Don't do that. Don't suck anything, please.
Oh,
Oh
God.
boy. Nope. Moving on. Sam, what about you?
I just started. Well, I'm about halfway through book 5 of the Outlander series called The Fiery Cross.
Oh,
It's good. It's historical fiction with a little bit of fantasy time travel. It's great. Strong
Awesome.
female characters, U.S. and Scottish history.
Some real hot sex scenes.
Super hot sex scenes. Although by book 5, they're like older, so the sex is kind of fallen by the wayside, and now they're just like trying to survive the American Revolution.
just
NBD.
like all of our lives.
Yeah,
really.
like
I
you
mean,
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dated a girl in high school who tried to make me read the first one. I got about halfway through it. I'm like, I can't. It's just not for me, dude.
It is like perfectly for me. Except the great thing about reading versus watching the show is I don't fuck with gingers, so I can imagine him not a ginger.
Perfect. As a man with a ginger beard, I really appreciate that.
That was deep insight into your psyche. I've learned something fundamental.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, no.
Heart
we're only
emoji, knife
scratching-
emoji.
We're only scratching the surface of each of our psyches at the end in this episode. I'm sure all of our choices for this debate are going to be quite illuminating.
Are we gonna survive through any of this? I really don't know.
We'll see.
Where's the gavel?
I was looking for it, trying to like spot it behind. Oh, I do see it. It's in front of the wolf.
Would you like me to grab
Yes,
it?
would you like us to pass it to you?
Oh, he needs his gavel.
Sweet.
No, don't pass him a weapon.
It was John, the gavel.
I just want a wolf.
Oh, hello, Balto. We've missed you. You did a wonderful job. You know, it's one of my favorite films.
Balto.
Balto.
Perfect.
My dog met the writer of Balto the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Did
She
you say
also
met or bit?
met? Well, I've never bit
What's the
anyone.
I didn't think
She's
so. I was like,
nice.
that's
I don't
the
see any
sweetest
differences
She's
between them.
She's met the writer of Balto and the writer of Snow Dogs, so I feel like she's really just checking that.
She's got to
winter
find
dog
Airbud
box.
and Beethoven, and she'll be good to go.
The director of Beethoven has met her.
Okay. Perfect.
This, of course, that's the way this story goes. Of course, that was a natural
My
progression.
dog comes to work with me, so
I
She
too
just
work with
meets
dogs. I
people.
understand. I understand.
she almost got to meet Patrick Wilson, but it didn't happen, and I was so mad.
I was so disappointed for her. For her, not for me.
Yeah.
I met him. I'm there every day. She only comes once a week.
Patrick Wilson in Space Station 76 is one of my favorite performances of any actor of all time. Just so we all are on the same page.
Oh,
Okay.
you really closed the loop there.
He's
Yes,
just
I
on
know.
my wood.
Professional.
He's on my wood list.
The movie itself, not great. His performance in it, fucking stellar.
You clearly haven't seen Phantom of the Opera.
How? I like this science fiction movie. Clearly, you've never seen this musical.
He plays
What?
He plays Raoul in the most understated role in the history of cinema.
Sure. Just gonna blatantly ignore everything you just said and move right along. So today's episode, as we pitched last week, is our Best Picture winner battle. So all of us around the table have picked films that have won Best Picture.
I lived it.
One of us lived it, apparently.
It was a life experience. It was a documentary.
Yeah, it's a documentary of Chris Ortiz as Anthony Hopkins.
With multiple,
As Hannibal Lecter.
with multiple cameras, a film crew, a special effects artist, and numerous
Yeah,
other-
it's exactly. That's just what follows Chris around. My apartment is jammed whenever he's on this episode. Um,
It's really
I
crowded.
really
in here
wish
right
they would
now.
leave.
right? They're fucking
That's why I
annoying.
needed an emotional support stuffed animal.
To get us all
Do
through
you
this.
want them to go away? I can make them.
Okay, so around the table, we'll say the movies that we have. I'm taking Billy Wilder's The Apartment. Chris is,
Silence of the Lambs.
if you couldn't guess, Sam
I'm doing Return of the King.
and Mike.
A Beautiful Mind.
Perfect. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to let John take over the show, who is acting as our judge today. I do not envy him at all. And yeah, it's your show, man. Let it rip.
All right, I think for the sake of this, let's tear the Band-Aid off early and do Silence of the Lambs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Are you ready to go, Chris? I'm giving you a buffer to get your giggles out before I start your 5-minute timer.
I got him.
Should I just leave the room?
It might help.
But I'm here to win.
Don't leave me alone with Hannibal Lecter, you guys. Fuck.
Have we learned nothing?
If this was Hannibal Lecter, we'd all be fine.
yes, he'd be much more polite than me, let's be honest.
Not so full of giggles.
The references will be much higher level.
Yeah. All right, Chris, you ready to go?
No
Let's
fan
do
of the
this.
All right, so 5 minutes to
Starring
defend your
Gerard
thing
Butler.
starts now. Go.
So Silence of the Lambs is the wonderful movie starring Clarice Starling, my protege, who decides that she needs to hunt down Buffalo Bill, who likes to skin the humps of women, according to what the film has said. And is probably, arguably, the only horror film to actually win the Best Picture Oscar. I could be wrong. Gentlemen, am I wrong? Is there any other horror film that has won this year?
I don't think so, no.
Excellent.
Rosemary's Baby.
Ooh.
Rosemary's Baby won Best Picture?
Did it win?
No, I
It was
think
nominated?
it was nominated.
I believe it was
Yeah, I think
nominated.
you're
I,
right,
don't
yeah.
think it won, though. Same with The Exorcist, another delightful film which
Curses.
I watch with all my children.
It's a great first 30 seconds of your argument.
You haven't even gotten to defending it yet.
You don't need to defend perfection. But all kidding around aside, Silence of the Lambs is actually legitimately, I would argue, an excellent and near-perfect film with impeccable direction by Jonathan Demme and incredible performances by not just Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster, but also by the supporting cast, including Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill, Scott Glenn as Agent Jack Crawford, and numerous other people whose names are escaping me.
Fell apart real fast there.
Oh, most certainly did.
I was waiting for him to read the full credit sheet. I was prepared for that to be the 5 minutes.
Yes, in the span of the 5 minutes that I have. One of the things that I love about this film is, in fact, the direction, specifically Jonathan Demme's unusual choice to have numerous characters staring at the camera when they're doing their close-ups, specifically when they're talking to Clarice Starling. If you notice, it actually puts you into her position, so anytime anybody's talking to her, they're looking at the camera, and then when they do the reverse angle of her speaking to them, she's usually looking off camera, which also makes you a little uncomfortable, kind of the way she is in the picture itself. I also genuinely love the last act of the film, especially when Clarice, spoiler warning, discovers Buffalo Bill in his suit full of women and has to chase around her with the night goggles.
The night goggles say.
Zinat goggles.
They do nothing.
I would also like to point out that in my background, I may or may not have gone to Germany. I don't really know.
You're a very traveled person. Why is it better than the other movies?
Well, all kidding around aside, the only other film that I think has a serious competition against this is The Apartment, which is an ungodly classic. Lord of the Rings, I feel like, while an excellent movie and an excellent capper to a trilogy, is jam-packed with CGI and is not the true best film of the trilogy. I would give that one to The Two Towers. A Beautiful Mind, I'm not even going to try to argue against. It's Ron Howard. Case closed.
He said it first.
Wow.
I would also like to point out that the caliber of the filmmaking in Silence of the Lambs is so good that it made the Academy some of the stuffiest people ever imaginable to be able to look past the fact that it's a horror film and just recognize what it is, which is a true classic in the cinema.
You still have a solid 2 minutes.
2
man.
minutes.
And 5 minutes after that, where we're all going to rip your movie to shreds.
Oh, God, I can't wait. So I'll be ripping everybody to shreds.
I mean,
No, all kidding around aside and stuff. I mean, like, also it has one of the best female protagonists in the history of cinema, Clarice Starling, with a true excellent. Fuck it, I'm just gonna switch over to this for the rest of this.
Thank God.
Oh no, for the rest of this argument, I'm still gonna be coming in and out of character. No, all kidding around aside and stuff. I mean, it's a fantastic movie. I mean, I was watching it this morning before the podcast to try to get used to it and stuff. And like I said, I would argue that the direction in Silence of the Lambs is probably the best out of all the Best Picture winners that we have over here. Maybe The Apartment, I'm not too sure, because Billy Wilder is also a master of the cinema too and everything. Like I said, Clarice is just, she's an amazing hero. She's an amazing protagonist for her feature and everything. Just so three-dimensional. It's so great. The direction in it is phenomenal. The details that they have in this picture. I mean, for instance, the scene where they pull the beetle out of, and it's not a beetle, it's the butterfly, right? It's a butterfly out of, the moth, sorry. The moth out of the victim's mouth, and you hear just like the little, like the last gasp of breath kind of going, and so just little details like that in this picture are just truly incredible. You know, I talk about this and stuff, like, I just want to reiterate, this is a horror movie that won and stuff. This is not a thriller. This is not a psychological thriller. I mean, your main character eats people in this picture. You can't tell me that this is not a straight-on horror movie. And especially with the little, like, especially with kind of the way that Jonathan Demme films it and stuff. I mean, I love the way that he builds the suspense in the third act with the FBI going after the one house. And you think it's Buffalo Bills, and at the last second it's revealed that no, it's not Buffalo Bills, and actually Clarice is actually at Buffalo Bill's house, especially with the way they framed the doorbell on his thing, just making it look like it's just the most ominous thing. This is also a great movie for, sorry, I banged the table. This is also a great movie for strong female characters, not just for Clarice Starling, but also the person that Buffalo Bill kidnapped in this picture, because she takes an agency, especially in the third act when she's trying to figure out how to get out of the picture.
You're out of time.
Excellent. I'm back in character.
All right, so
I blacked out for a second. What's going on?
5 minutes to take this movie down. John, do you have any other questions before we jump on it?
I'll let you guys. Let's see what you guys come up with.
So, I mean, there is no denying that I think every movie on the table today has merit for being here. Like, they're all very good movies, so that's not where I'm going to start with this thing. But for me, the problem with Silence of the Lambs as the best one at the table, it's tough to like really articulate, because there's little things throughout the entire movie that kind of bump me, and it's not like the whole movie is a fault, but there's little character motivation things that I think are kind of strange at moments. There's things with Clarice specifically that, like, she really, for somebody who's supposed to be the smartest person, so smart that they pluck her out of school to go interview Hannibal Lecter because, you know, she's kind of his type, but she should be able to go toe to toe with him. She falls for his shit real fast. Like, within the first few minutes, she's already in his head. Like, he gets in her head immediately. And for somebody who's supposed to be the strong, badass female character, it's kind of weird to see her lose, basically, the mental mind game in the very first scene she has with the guy. Like, there's almost no sparring. Like, on rewatches, you go, oh, wait, so she's supposed to be this badass, but she's gone immediately.
That's kind of that's the biggest beef with the movie. And I think a stronger... Jodie Foster is... she's a great actress, and she's great in this movie. I don't know if she was the best choice, because she does come off as a little wooden. She's got like a diet Keanu Reeves quality about her, I think.
Please, she'd be able to pull off an English accent that she was in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I also think, like, for me, when I watch a movie, like, what gives it a lasting quality, and I love Silence of the Lambs, but what gives it a lasting quality is what it's trying to say, and kind of, does it hold up over time? And I think this has such a nihilistic view on humanity that it just doesn't. And I think, obviously, too, there's, like, dealing with the trans issues of, like, the disturbed trans person is the villain. And,
yeah.
Sure.
And Buffalo Bill in general is just, like, a really fucked up dude. And like, comically so. I don't know that he comes across as scary as he needs to be, especially with the goodbye horses scene and, like, the, I'd fuck me, would you fuck me?
Yeah.
Like, I say that to myself before, like, a
impression.
job interview. I'm like, I'd hire me, would you hire me?
In hindsight, I should have done this podcast in character as him.
Yep. Way creepier.
And it's not, I think too, part of it is that Silence of the Lambs is coming from really weak source material, and they hew almost too closely to it. Whereas we've seen in other adaptations where they play with it a little bit and kind of strengthen the pulpiness of Thomas Harris's work.
Oh
And-
no,
and
you're a
this
Brian
doesn't.
Fuller fan.
Oh, if I were
Actually,
a
I
dude,
love
I'd
that.
hate it
Actually, I
so
love
hard.
that show. And
So-
if you guys haven't seen it, it's great.
I want to build off of what you were saying because I want everyone to imagine a world where they made Silence of the Lambs with somebody else as Hannibal Lecter, not Anthony Hopkins.
Perhaps
in that
Brian
role.
Cox.
Actually,
Or perhaps Mads Mikkelsen.
actually,
Okay.
do you guys know the original choice for Hannibal Lecter before Anthony Hopkins came along?
Mads Mikkelsen.
Gene Hackman.
Oh,
Oh, so
No.
my point
I agree.
being that the
Tessmacher. Clarice.
that would have been very unsettling in the middle of the Silence of the Lambs. But trying to imagine that Silence of the Lambs and Anthony Hopkins' performance are so intertwined that when the entire when the entire movie hinges off of that single performance, if you extract that away and look at everything else, there's still great things about Silence of the Lambs, but it all comes down to that one key factor. And I feel like for Best Picture, a singular element, if I knock that out from you, what's your argument?
Yeah, I mean, you pull Anthony Hopkins out of Silence of the Lambs, and it's barely a movie. And the thing that's kind of weird about it is, like, it's not Hannibal's film. Like, it's not Hannibal's story
Exactly.
at all. It's Clarice's story, and she plays second fiddle to him. Like, you chose somebody who owns this movie, and he's phenomenal. Don't get me wrong.
Totally,
like,
absolutely.
he's great. But by doing that, you kind of lose the point of the film because all you want is another scene with Hannibal. It's like, oh, when's Hannibal coming back? Oh, why are we watching Jodie Foster get chased in Night Vision when Hannibal's out? Like, he's out. He could be killing people right now. I want to see what Hannibal's doing. And
Could.
But I think it goes to your point about different adaptations of Hannibal. It all still goes back to that one Anthony Hopkins reference point, and we can do great things with it, but no one has been really able to.
Yeah.
15 seconds
15
to say we're
seconds.
wrong, Chris. If
You're wrong.
I don't have any arguments, really. I mean, I will say that I think it's the direction I think that Jonathan Demme did and everything that kind of keeps the film together without Hannibal. Because you're right, Hannibal is the movie and everything. I can't give that argument.
Oh, he's saying stop.
there you go.
If you could,
Done.
Why are you telling me to stop, Jonathan? Are you
Please.
scared? Are you scared that we're going to cross tip-tap-toe a line?
Did anybody ever see Silence of the Hams? Anybody?
Yes, the movie with Don DeLuise.
Yeah.
I felt like
What?
he did a fantastic job.
This is a
Billy
real
Zane
thing?
was
That's a
bi-
real thing.
Oh my god.
Do you ever miss the sound of the ham falling down the stairs? Thump, thumpity, thump, thump, thump.
God.
my favorite.
I have not, but now I want to.
Yeah.
My favorite parody of this film, though, has to be the South Park one, when Officer Bob Brady has to go visit the toiletry
Yes.
kid in the.
All right. So, Chris, who should go after you?
I think we should just get the toughest one, in my opinion, done first. Brian, you naughty boy, why don't you go ahead and go with the apartment? What's the matter? You don't have your argument settled?
I have my argument settled, and this is the least confident I've gone to a battle. So we'll see. We'll see how we do.
That's
All
right.
right. So
bitch.
You're like that guy with the big teeth, and I'm like Aragorn with that sword. You ready? You ready?
And I'm like that psychopath.
That's fellowship.
you guys are
Damn it.
eating my time.
Oh, no,
Shut
the
up.
teeth guy. The teeth
That's-
guy.
Oh, sorry. Let's go ahead.
Guy at
Okay.
The Black Gate.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing
anyhow,
math. So that
hey, my time has started. I'm lost 20 seconds. I'm now. That's why I lose. So Billy Wilder's The Apartment is it's one of my favorite movies that I don't watch very often. And that started because when I started thinking that I was going to get into film, I started reading screenplays, and I just started kind of grabbing at Wilde, no pun intended. And one of the ones that I grabbed was The Apartment. And I loved it. It was one of my favorite screenplays, still to this day, one of my favorite screenplays ever written, because it has this really beautiful mix of funny with situational comedy with this really unbelievably like bold take, especially for when it came out, on depression and loneliness and like suicide. And it tells it in this really kind of fucked up but endearing and kind of warm messaged movie. And I avoided seeing the movie for so long because I loved the script so much, and I didn't think there was any way in hell that the script would be made into a movie that I would enjoy, because I just thought it'd be, especially for when it came out, I thought it'd be a little too hokey, which it does have its hokey moments, but I still think that the movie holds up, and I think it does the script well. I love Jack Lemmon. Like, he's one of my favorite actors of all time. I think he can be very great serious. You can watch him in Glengarry as Ross, and he's amazing, and you can watch him in like fucking the old people movie, and he's hilarious. I'm forgetting the name of it now.
It's Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah.
I kept thinking old people fucking. I don't know why.
Or if you want to talk about a real cinema classic, Out to Sea.
Sure. But like I love that Jack Lemmon, like, he really dives into every single role that he gets. And I think with this one and between him and Shirley, like they just have this very believable chemistry that just ties me into the movie at all times. So if you don't know what the movie's about, there's a man who lives close to work, and he basically gives out his apartment to 4 higher-ups and eventually 5 higher-ups to take their mistresses back and bang. And the whole gender roles thing is just like, it's so fucked. And watching this movie, it's just like, wow, people are fucking horrible. And as he starts to realize how much he really likes the elevator worker, he starts rising up in his company and finds out that the boss that's helping him rise through the company's mistress is the elevator worker, and he's taking her to his apartment to bang her. And it's like, it's this mind fuck of like, I still really like this girl, and he still does, but like, he's like, I can't do anything because I'd be ruining my promotions, I'd be ruining my career, and I wouldn't be able to get the girl in my dreams. So it's like this, he has to wrestle with this like horrible situation, and the girl still really likes him, but not as much as she likes the other guy. And the reason I think I'm always drawn to the movie so much is because I just hook, line, and sinker believe the relationships. And it's because they don't pull their punches in a way that I would expect a movie from 1959 to pull their punches. Like, I would expect like the suicide angle I would never really see coming in a movie like this one. And they do it, and I'm always kind of annoyed. Like, that's the one drawback for me in the movie, is I don't think they handle the suicide very well at all. And I haven't, even in the script, it's my one bump. It's like they apologize for it and they kind of make a game out of it, and the way that he handles her is just terrible. But I also think that's kind of his character. Like, he's a kind of a bumbling fool. So when he has to deal with a woman who just attempted to commit suicide in his apartment because she feels guilty about what she's doing to him, his reaction isn't try to get her mental help. It's let's play cards. And he doesn't really know what he's doing. And I believe Jack Lemmon's performance of, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I think that really works well for me and in the story. And I think Billy Wilder was brave enough to actually put that stuff in there, because it made your hero of the movie kind of shitty and like kind of not like detached in a way that he shouldn't be. Like, he should be better. Like, he should be like the doctor who lives next to him, who's like knows what to do, knows how to handle it. And he's just not that guy. He's a guy who's selfish. He's a guy who's using people to further his career while also getting used. And it not until the very end of the movie does he realize, like, oh, I'm doing everything wrong. Like, I'm going about getting the girl in my dreams wrong. I'm going about getting my career wrong. I'm going about my life wrong. And the movie ends with him basically just saying, fuck it to everything. He like confesses his love to the girl of his dreams, who doesn't reciprocate. She's just like, yeah, can you just shut up and we can play cards? Like, so it leaves it in this kind of like bleak sort of like, you assume they're going to end up together, but they might not. Like, they just kind of agreed that their lives weren't great and we should move forward and change these things about ourselves. And I think that's a good message, and I love the movie. That's my 5 minutes.
All right.
That was beautiful.
Time for the rebuts.
I'm moved.
I would be touched if, I actually had feelings like that.
So you
but I
shouldn't be
don't.
moved by this movie, because it's a movie about a man who doesn't change, and it's a movie about a woman who hasn't changed. That ending, she keeps complaining about how she picks bad guys, and then she goes to this unemployed, spineless shitbag.
But she doesn't pick him.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. The fact is, she still goes to his apartment. You can see the pattern starting over, and he hasn't actually improved. He's still treating her like not a human. What drives him to his discussion is that he hears his boss talking about her in the same way he was going to talk about her. And no one actually treats Shirley MacLaine's character as a woman. Like, poor Fran is like clearly suffering. Her family doesn't respect her agency. She doesn't respect her agency. She keeps falling in with men who don't respect her. And nothing changes. This is a movie about wheels spinning. And I mean, and it's pretending not to be. That's what's even more offensive. And you can say it's a product of the time, but no. Because 3 years prior, things like Roman Holiday were getting nominated for Best Picture. Audrey Hepburn was making things like Charade, and Katharine Hepburn was a huge movie star. So you can't say it's a product of its time. It's just depressing. It's about the depressing ways in which people treat one another badly, wrapped up in a feel-good comedy. And it's probably one of Billy Wilder's least kind of visually interesting films too. It just takes place in this hideous little apartment. And it's meant to be kind of bleak and stuff, but there's just nothing to propel the story forward. You say the suicide bumps you, but that's the only thing that happens in this film. It's spinelessness, objectification, Chinese food, and a suicide. That's not a best picture. That's not something, we talked about things that hold up over time, and this is just not something, it doesn't hold up, and it doesn't hold up as a product of its time either.
I don't think it is a product of
cop-out.
its time, though. You keep saying I never said it's a product of its time. I was expected that it came out in that time. I don't think this is a snapshot of that time period at all.
Yeah, I
don't think it's meant to be either.
I think it's just it's nice guy apologia. You know, it's
See, and you also say it's a comedy. It's not a comedy. Like
It's-
there's some funny moments, but
It's marketed as a comedy
yeah,
for sure.
but
Like,
I agree with you. It definitely is marketed as a comedy. You don't
It's
have Jack
got-
Lemmon and Billy Wilder not expect.
I mean,
Billy Wilder
the
does not
whole-
make just comedies.
Yeah.
I will flat out say that.
The
Fair
whole
enough.
front
Yeah.
half of the movie, though, is just fun sexual innuendo. Like, that's why it's a good screenplay, because it's witty. It's not a good screenplay because it's, like, structurally... I hate all these characters. I hate them all. Like,
See, but
except
I-
for maybe the doctor's wife. She seemed decent.
But I maybe it's just that's a different opinion because I love hateable characters, and I agree with you. I think all the characters are super
love
hateable, but I love
characters,
that.
too. Like, Young Adult is one of my favorite movies, but...
That's a very different type of hateable character. though.
It's the same type of hateable. It's a woman who's treated as an object by everyone in her life. It just happens to be from her fucking perspective, and you see how bleak that is. Jack Lemmon's character is a shit. He's a spineless shit, and it's painful to watch.
Totally, I agree with you, and that's why when you say the ending is like it doesn't change anything, you're right. The ending of the movie is
so
this.
what's the point? It's a long movie too. It's
Yeah.
2 hours and 7 minutes of wheel spinning.
oh wow,
that movie-
I didn't even.
Yeah,
It
2
doesn't
hours
feel like
and
that at all to
7
me.
minutes. It
But-
feels like
but you say the ending
longer
of the
than
movie is
Return of the King to me.
that's impossible. But like the
Oh,
But
we'll
to be fair,
get to
that
yours
is
soon
actually
enough.
but like the ending of the movie, I don't think was meant to be change. That's supposed to be the start of change. That's both them sitting there going, "We're going to change." Now.
What indicates to you that they're changing?
The fact that they're both,
She goes to hang out with a jobless loser on New Year's.
but she doesn't agree to date him, and she doesn't reciprocate love. That's the first start of change. Because the first time she's told, "I love you. Do you still love me?" her response is, "You know that I do." The second time she's told it by Jack Lemmon, she doesn't reply. So there's not a big change there, but there is something there.
So she's
she
still
is
playing
changing.
coy with no agency.
I'd also like to point out that Jack Lemmon is changing too. He
Yeah.
left the job. That's a big step for him.
He's leaving the job. He's leaving the apartment. He is changing his life. But we watch the movie. The whole movie is an inspiration to change. It's not watching change. It's not watching the arc. It's watching what led to that arc. It's watching the horrible steps
That's
that
the
led them
exact
to the point to
opposite
change
of what a movie should be.
Is it?
It-
What
but-
is a movie?
Yeah, like that. But
A movie
movies can.
has to have some forward motion. Like, I would rather watch what happens after.
That's fine.
You know,
but like,
it's just not... I
And
don't
Tokyo Story
care.
is a terrible film by that definition.
but I agree with you. Like, but I don't think that all movies have to be that. I think this movie does what it does. The goal that it set out to do, I think it does perfectly. Like, I love it. That's
All right.
my counter.
How do you feel, Jonathan? Do you want to take a break?
I'm entertained.
Should I pick or you pick?
You should pick.
You know, I gotta save the epic for last, so I'm going with Mike.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Way to lead the table of opinion.
All right.
Here we go. Hannibal against mental illness.
Or against or together. Who knows?
Give me what you got, big boy.
Well, I want to start off by telling you a personal story because originally I'm from just outside of Princeton, New Jersey, where the majority of this movie is based. And it was a big news story when I can remember the news clippings. This shows how old I am. I'm talking about news clippings from the 40s. Of Russell Crowe being in town and the movie set. And it really stuck out in my memory. And I have close associations of that with A Beautiful Mind winning the Oscar for Best Picture. That leads me to overall, I feel that A Beautiful Mind, for me, it's the perfect argument for a Best Picture movie. Technically, it's got great cinematography. It's got effects that are used in an interesting way. It's got great casting. I am bracing myself for the arguments about director, but it's at least it's at least got a director that you can consider to be in top flight. I'm getting very nervous here. The producer Brian Grazer, whatever you want to say, they produce hits and they produce Oscar caliber films. So
Rush was good.
I'm not making the case that it's the best.
Have you seen Inferno?
Well,
Let him finish.
I have the floor. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. It's got a really interesting take on the story, how it takes you through the character's journey, how he perceives the world, and then you have the twist in the film. Spoiler alert, I guess. And from there, you're taken on a ride with these characters as they progress through on this journey. Is it the peak of anything? No, but I think there are so many strong attributes that overall it makes it a really difficult movie for me to argue against. It's got a lot of whatever you think of Russell Crowe, he does take the approach to that character and to that part, makes a commitment to that. Jennifer Connelly is good in that part.
You are literally giving us ammo.
Should I keep going down?
Bro, I fucking love Russell Crowe. I like how you look at me pleading. Like, whatever you
I'm
think of Russell Crowe,
really-
I'd let him throw a phone at me.
I'm pleading to everyone because I know that you have to look at these pictures in a time where they are, and then also in context of where they're coming from. And we all know about Russell Crowe, and that's problematic. Anyway, I also think of this film as a template for the biopic, which tends to be Oscar bait. You see a lot of strands from this film throughout the course of the next 20-ish years leading to today. When I talked about doing this actually with my girlfriend right before I came over, she was like, "Oh yeah, the one, it was like the scientist Stephen Hawking." And I was like, "No, that's the theory of everything. You're getting mixed up." But the template of A Beautiful Mind sticks out in people's memories so vividly because it sets forth that template. You can draw a through line from there in 2001 to right now. That's all I got. I don't really have anything else beyond those arguments.
How does it compare to the other movies at the table? Like what kind of gives it the edge over these?
I think it may also be turned against me, but I would say accessibility. It does have an accessible premise, and it presents itself in a way that opens it off to an audience that Silence of the Lambs or Return of the King or The Apartment, even just based due to the. I mean, I hadn't heard about it until we came to the list because I'm ageist to the extreme, but it brought me to it, and I watched it in preparation for this, and I have my opinions about the film. Maybe we'll hear about them someday. But that accessibility, because it is the perfect Best Picture winner, because it's got all the necessary elements that compose that. When you think of Best Picture, it's got that to its detriment and to its strengths, and I think that really builds it up as, at least amongst the table, the winner here.
All right,
Okay.
Damn, we still have 45 seconds.
here, I can change that. There you go.
So,
All right, go ahead.
So, A Beautiful Mind beat out, for me, my personal story, my favorite movie, the movie I consider the best movie of all time, the first Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah, I was
And
bracing for this.
That's my biggest beef. Is like it's fine. Like I said, I love
This is fine.
I love Russell Crowe.
You love him
like-
fat.
Oh, dude, fat Russell Crowe can get it so hard. Oh my god, fucking fat Russell Crowe. Anyway,
You like that?
American Gangster
mu-
Fat Russell Crowe is one of my favorite
310 to
characters.
Yuma,
You
fat Russell Crowe.
you must have loved The Nice Guys.
Actually, how
Really
did
an
you know?
exhilarating
But
film
like-
for you. Everybody else was going after Ryan Gosling, but
Poetry
you,
in
no,
motion.
Screw that
you wanted the
Canadian
fat, you wanted the
wiener.
fat Crow.
But anyway, my point is, A Beautiful Mind is like just aggressively fine, and you say it's accessible, but I think it made the least amount of money, like relative to the time
Yep.
of any movie at this table.
Ha! I beat you at the box office.
I do, and I think it doesn't have. I've been talking this whole time about like, does it hold up over time? And I mean, it has influenced a lot of movies.
Sure.
Its influence is there, but it's influenced movies that all seem so samey. They blend into one another.
It's a double-edged sword.
See,
Yeah.
and that's like what you were saying before. Like, I agree with you. Like, this movie set the template for Academy bait films, but I blame it for that.
Oh.
Like, because Beautiful Mind, we're now guaranteed a shitty movie every year that's going to carbon copy A Beautiful Mind and walk away with a ton of statues, like Theory of Everything, like King's Speech, like a lot of these things, which do these kind of like, meh,
But
okay.
is that the fault of the Academy, or is that the fault of A Beautiful Mind? A Beautiful Mind
But-
catered to those tastes, and,
Sure.
and played. I mean, I would also say that's a very calculated move by the producers.
I
wouldn't you?
agree with you, but at the same time, like, if it wasn't for A Beautiful Mind just being the ultimate Oscar bait, like every single speech, you can feel like, oh, this is what they're going to play as a clip show when Russell Crowe's nominated for Best Actor or for Jennifer Connelly as Best Actress. Like, you can just feel it. Like, it doesn't, because of that, there's no like earnest emotion in it. Like, it just feels so cold and calculated.
I just want to establish everyone's bashing on this movie because it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Executed?
Well, I'll tell you
That's
something that I have.
Well, here, I guess it didn't, though, because it's a true story, and it purports to be a love story, but their love story was way more interesting in real life than what happened in the
Wait,
film.
back up. Did you say real life love story? I'm not sure if you lived around those people. They were fucked up.
Yeah.
Like hard.
That's what I'm saying. But it was also really interesting because they did divorce, and she helped him recover while they were divorced, and they didn't get back together until almost 20 years later when he won a Nobel Peace Prize. That's an interesting story. I want to see that.
Sure.
I don't, and I feel like they struggled so hard to find a visual representation of schizophrenia that they lost the humanity of the characters.
Well, and it's not
the
even just
real
that.
life people.
But not even just that, but I feel like they're so determined to try to depict schizophrenia that they kind of forget the story that they're telling. Like, they spend so much time going down the rabbit hole of like, is he decoding things for the government or not, that by the time you figure out that he's not, it's like, all right, well, okay, so we've been watching this for 2 hours and now I just found out that.
And it overshadows the fact that this guy invented game theory.
Yeah, like
I mean, it at least put that out there, and I should have included that in my arguments that it did make math accessible. I mean, we're talking about a movie that made math at least somewhat interesting for 2 hours. I mean, that's more than you could say for a lot of these films on the table.
Mathematics is universally interesting. How dare you? I would also like to point out to you that I don't like the theme of love conquers all in this picture, while also negating the true effects of schizophrenia to many a fine person in the real world.
I think he actually went into character, like actually did
yeah,
psychoanalysis.
it worked out.
I know exactly who you are. I see inside you.
But like, that's kind of my biggest issue with the movie, though, is that like it does such a. My biggest issue with the movie is that it does such a. It sets its goal to depict schizophrenia and its effect on John Nash so much that they forget to really celebrate all the things that John Nash did. And John Nash is huge, like
He
one of the most.
Shouldn't be defined by that illness.
Yeah, and the whole movie defines him by schizophrenia, not by his accomplishments. Until the very end, they're like, "Oh, by the way, here's some pens," and it's like,
the pens. I actually had a big problem with the pens, but
Yeah.
we can address that some other time. But I just keep coming back to it. It set out exactly what it accomplished to do, and love it or hate it.
But it set out to tell the story of John Nash, and it didn't. It told the story of schizophrenia.
It told a story of John Nash.
Okay.
And to say that it didn't tell the complete story, then that...
It told a story about his disability, not his abilities. That'd be like if Hidden Figures were just like, we're black and it sucks. But no, it's about math, and they make the math super interesting.
Ah, damn it, I forgot about Hidden Figures. Shit.
Ooh. I was like at the buzzer slam dunk
Stop!
there.
Hammer time. All right, so
How did I forget about Hidden Figures? Fuck, that movie was good.
It truly was a wonderful film.
My girl Janelle Monáe. What?
all right, so
Well, I guess there's nowhere to go but
Yeah.
Return of the King.
That's it.
all right, go ahead.
So this movie was a culmination of A Labor of Love by Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa Boyens. They had to fight the Weinstein machine, and they won. Which is fucking cool. And they had been denied by the Academy for 2 years, losing to A Beautiful Mind and even more offensively and egregiously Chicago.
Forgot that one won.
Yeah, and while this,
And they call me a monster.
While I will admit it is for me the weakest of the trilogy. That's like saying that. I don't even know. It's the pinnacle of like filmmaking, you know, and the amount of practical effects and viscera, and it was before we had China look CGI. You know, it was a real lived in world, and we got to finish this journey, this really beautiful journey where we watch 9 characters, now 8, struggle to save the whole world, and it's a world that's dirty and flawed, and I wouldn't want to live there, but I see and understand why they work so hard to defend it and each other. And I care about and love all the characters. Every character has an arc. We've watched Aragorn really struggle with his identity and kind of come into his own. Frodo is just, you see the weight of the ring in every scene that he's in, and then the minute it's off of him, you see the strength where he's the one reminding Sam of the Shire and of home. You see Sam just overcoming all odds, this terrified little hobbit just carrying his friend for nothing. He doesn't give a shit about the politics of this world, but he loves his friend. Pippin and Merry have an arc. Gandalf, you see him come to terms with his limits of his power as a wizard and find his humanity. Like, he finds his strength in his humanity, not in his magic. Legolas and Gimli die. They're willing to die side by side, and they hated each other at the beginning of this journey. And it's just so rewarding and satisfying. And we see what's really cool is like the character of Arwen in the books didn't have much agency. There's not a lot written there about her, but we watch her make a decision that saves all of humankind. She ignores her dad, she rides back, and even though like she's kind of sidelined through the whole story, it's because of her decisiveness and her agency that everyone has the will to fight. And it's like you see, and Eowyn's beautiful moment where she says, "I am no man," and drives down the Night King. It's moment after moment of triumph. There is also a fucking ghost army. I mean, and it looks, and like the whole thing about this too is that it feels so personal. It's an epic, but it's shot like a 90s horror film because Peter Jackson cannot help himself. There are heads being launched over walls in an Oscar film. Like, it's just glorious. And you've got Howard Shore's score in an age where like Hans Zimmer is taken over with electro farts. Having an actual orchestral score and a song by Annie Lennox is just such a treasure. And just the amount of love. And what's really cool too is Peter Jackson may have directed it, but Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens wrote and produced it. And you can see kind of the female touch. Like most action epics, it's all just dirty, grimy action. But like every time Aragorn has a moment, there's like a fan and a like the whoosh and the sword, and there's just sort of a romance to it that I think speaks to a female influence that I can really appreciate. It feels, even though like there's obviously complaints to be made about these movies that they're a little bit whitewashed and male heavy, you can still feel that female beating heart in there. And so there is an accessibility to it, even though it is a 4-hour-long movie about like elves and orcs. The humanity is so strong in this film and so beautiful that there's nothing else like it to have won Best Picture because it is so unique. It's a genre picture through and through, and like a tiny little New Zealand genre picture. These three movies, the trilogy, and yeah, I'm going to talk about the trilogy because that's what it won for, let's be honest. They boosted a whole country's economy. Like, New Zealand is still living off of the Lord of the Rings. And that's fucking dope because it's a dope country. And like,
They were in real danger of falling into the crack epidemic before Lord of the Rings came along.
no, but it's just like he employed so many people, and I think like we wouldn't have Taika Waititi if we didn't have Peter Jackson, which is like a huge thing because Thor 3 was a treasure, and so is What We Do in the Shadows, and he is a beautiful man. And like it's just everything about it just feels like this labor of love, even though it's a big it's not a glossy epic. It's a lived in, felt, visceral epic that won the Best Picture Oscar, and that's just so much more special than anything.
All right. Any rebuttals?
Oh, I have several. No.
I just want to start real quick. It'll take 2 seconds. 2 words. Apology Oscar. That's
the man.
But it also was better than anything else that was nominated that year. I mean, like,
So an apology Oscar in a weak year?
I mean, it's there
not
because
an apology.
because of Chicago the last year. Like it's.
But it's not an apology if it was still the best film.
It doesn't matter to me. I think
They should have all three won. Let's be honest.
But the problem is that the best film of the trilogy, I think most of us would agree, would be The Two Towers. It
I would
should
say
have won
Fellowship,
for.
But it wasn't competing against those two films. It was competing against Lost in Translation.
No, but for me, the line isn't whether or not it's the best of the trilogy or the worst of the trilogy. It's what did it beat, and it beat things that it deserved to beat. But the long and the short of it is, if the first two movies didn't exist, this movie is garbage. And like, I'm trying to argue the movies on their merits. If you don't watch Fellowship
that's like saying
and Towers,
Return of the Jedi is garbage, and we all know that's not true
but
because
Return
I
of the
won
Jedi,
the last Battle episode.
Return of the Jedi stands on its own 2 feet better than Return of the King. If you haven't watched the first 2 Lord of the Rings movies, you are lost from the get-go. They just drop you right in the movie, and that makes sense for how they made it. It totally works. But we're trying to argue the best movie on the table, and this one you need to watch 2 movies before you watch it. Every other movie on the table you can just pick up and watch.
You have to watch good movies to understand another movie.
It's still, but you're still supporting our argument, though. The fact of the matter is that
also drops you into a world that you need to know.
You need to let me finish, please.
Or what?
We know what the or what is. Don't go there. Don't go there.
I'm scrawny.
Unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that Brian's point is correct. You have to be able to watch the first 2 films to be able to enjoy this one as a 4-star film. Without watching the first 2 films, it is not a 4-star movie in your mind. And we are talking about films, but we are talking about films as an individual merit, not as a trilogy merit, not as a sequel merit, an individual merit.
Yeah, and
the problem is that it does not shape up. Also, I'd like to point out one giant plot hole: Army of the Dead. If you're going to have an Army of the Dead that literally act like termites jumping on top of Oliphants, you might as well have it go after the giant tower with the fucking eye at the top of it.
But they couldn't, because Aragorn had dignity, and it's that dignity and humanity that's what saves the day. It's like a theme.
Yeah, if I was scared off, I would have turned around and been like, dude, these people are actually fucking alive. These guys aren't. Get them to kill the tower, and then we could release them.
He tried that. He gave him temptation, and he said no.
I agree with Sam on that point. I think they actually stuck to their guns on that one, both the book and the movie. I think that was smart. But like the other thing that you keep mentioning is that it's so real and lived in, and I totally agree with you for Fellowship and Towers, but they went way too CGI heavy in the third one. Like, there's still those practical areas that look great, but the final battle at fucking Gondor, it's a CGI shit show. And like
I wouldn't say it's a shit show, because we've seen what a shit show is in the Hobbit
sure,
films.
sure,
but
fair enough.
Because again, it doesn't have that.
It doesn't feel lived in. Like, when you watch the Helm's Deep battle, it's like, holy shit, this is real, and it's happening, and it's horrifying. You watch this one, and they went full CGI crazy town. And it was like, I enjoy it. It's a well-executed sequence. But I was watching it at work, and I had 3 people walk up like, I don't remember this looking so horrible. Like, and now, because you watch Helm's Deep, it looks amazing.
The Blu-ray transfer was also really bad.
Sure, but
I would say, like, I blame part of that on the Blu-ray transfer. It's not great. Watching it on DVD is a lot more pleasurable.
But if you watch a Blu-ray transfer of Helm's Deep, it still looks great because it was all real.
Yeah.
You watch the Blu-ray transfer of Gondor, it doesn't hold up.
But I also think in order to have things like the Ghost Army, which is such a great thing, you couldn't have done that.
But you can do the Ghost Army without having 1,000 CGI soldiers that they didn't have in the first one.
I think to have the scale that was required, I think you needed CGI. I don't think the CGI was there, but I still appreciate that they attempted it. I think when you have like that sort of sense of scope, the fact that they didn't go for like China, like the China look where it has to be super animated and super fantasy, the fact that they tried to make it look lived in, because even in like wholly animated films, crowd scenes are really hard. Crowds
for sure,
are like really hard.
They're always difficult.
I think if you'd only had like 1,000 on 1,000, it would lack the scope. So it was a no-win situation, and I think they made the best choice.
I would agree if it looked like
But you also
Helm's
have those.
Deep
But you also have those cutaways to. But Helm's Deep was way smaller numbers.
Yeah, I know, but it still looked like a lot.
Yeah,
but there wasn't a lot, and it looked like a lot. This one there wasn't a lot, and it looked like there wasn't a lot. Like it didn't full. And then like they have moments where it's like, this is amazing, and then they do a Legolas cartoon climbing a cartoon elephant. It's like, and it just pulls me out of the whole sequence. Like, this should be the most awesome thing in the whole movie, and instead I'm like, that guy looks like Neo.
But then
right
you're
now.
constantly cutting away to like the intimacy of Sam and Frodo, and I think if you didn't have the Sam and Frodo,
you're talking about the intimacy with them with a giant spider.
But even the spider looked better than the
spider looked great.
Yeah, the spider.
Like, those webs were incredible.
Yeah, they spent more time on that than they did the actual like the 2 final battles for Gondor.
The epic culmination of the entire movie, and you're left feeling completely underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Time is up. God damn it.
Should have put me on that battlefield. Sauron would have run away in fear.
Can you eat one person at a time on a battlefield? Is that the most efficient way to work? Or?
Well, if you want to know the truth.
If you're in a kung fu movie, yes.
Shish kebab.
Oh, perfect. Just like a lance, just and we're good for dinner.
I would have just
come on over here.
And then you roast it over the flaming eye.
Yeah,
How do you
perfect.
layer the
Nazgul's
veggies in on
coming.
that? There's a lot of questions I have on that.
Bring on the smog. Wow. Okay. So the situation I'm currently dealing with is I've got 2 movies that are nowhere near close to difficult to decide against. Some to do with delivery and some to do with arguments against it. And you can figure out where that line is.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, it's fine. It's
Mike's got
fair.
a
It's
chance,
fair.
man. Mike's in it.
I regret nothing.
So we have 2 titans at the table who've done a great job of arguing their case, and I've been ping-ponging back and forth between which movie I want. And I've never wanted to do like a sudden death round, so I'm not going to do it.
I wasn't prepared for this.
I have to give it to Return of the King. And it was just because of the arguments against The Apartment worked more it was so close.
I think you're scared, Jonathan. What are you scared about?
Remember that time that I won on Sister Act 2?
Yeah, that was weird.
Wait a second. Back up. Somebody wanted an argument for Sister Act 2 back into habit. Because,
Yep.
and I also love the fact that that's a double entendre. Because, she's getting back into the habit, but she's actually wearing a habit.
Look, kids, if you want to be somebody and if you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention.
I'm just so inspired now. I know what I'm going to do with my life.
Cannibals?
Watch better Oscar movies.
Yeah. No, it was really close to the wire where if I gave you guys 2 more minutes, it could have changed either way. That was how close it was.
Fair enough. So that brings today's battle to a close. Congratulations, Sam.
Thank you.
You can do a victory lap if you want.
I don't want to get too cocky because one day I will lose one of these.
So yeah, Mike, thank you very much for coming back out. This was a lot of fun.
This was really fun.
Thanks for having me
Yeah,
again.
I'm
That's
sorry
great.
we ripped your movie to pieces.
I knew what I was getting into when I made my choice,
Yeah.
but I did it with a purpose.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on a battle again. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also really do like Russell Crowe, and I was really glad to have an opportunity to talk about it.
I'm here
I
to
almost
serve
picked
other
Gladiator.
people's.
Like,
That would have worked too.
I was close to picking Gladiator,
Yeah.
and then I just went for screenplay, and I love The Apartment.
Okay, hold on, no. A great idea just emerged in my brain. A battle of crows.
Oh God, no,
a murder of crows. I like it.
Can I judge that one?
that might work.
Oh my god!
Wow.
I'll have to find a time to make it actually. fit
Can't we
the
just
calendar.
call Crow Off 2018?
That implies we could just do it every year.
And God, I
annual
hope somebody
Crow-Off.
argues for virtuosity.
Or A Good Year, directed by Ridley Scott.
Oh boy.
Wow.
I'm joking. Please don't do that.
Oh.
Sam, thank you very much for sitting in for Emily for 2 weeks. It was much
Anytime.
appreciated. Chris, thank you for sitting in for Chewie for this episode and for being on for 2 weeks in a row. It was much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Please don't ever do that again.
I'm not coming back if he does it again.
And thank you everybody for listening and everything.
But
I have a
what-
question. Did you want to do plugs since you didn't do them last time? I don't know if anyone else here has things to
Oh,
plug.
if you would like to plug,
I don't.
sure.
No, I don't.
Oh,
I
no.
was just saying you usually do.
That other show, my podcast. So.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
I'm sorry. Would you like to do plug?
Well, that other show.
It's called That Other Show.
It's called That Other Show.
Perfect. That works. Okay.
How original.
So now I can actually say bye.
Bye.